We'll talk Italy, we'll talk Germany with Luigi Zingales. He's finance professor at the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. Actually, forget all of that. I want to talk to you about banks.
Okay.
Does it make sense for Deutsche Bank to merge with Commerzbank, or does it make more sense for UniCredit to buy them?
I think it makes much more sense for UniCredit to buy it for two reasons. Number one, we want to have transnational banks in Europe, so a within-country merger would be a terrible idea. Second, I think UniCredit has done a lot to improve, and I think is much more efficient. Merging like Commerzbank and Deutsche Bank is merging two sick men and trying to hope that all of a sudden they become one healthy one.
Okay, so we speak to chief executives, and they always say, look, it's because of negative rates or negative yields in Europe that we're not growing. It's because of growth in Italy and Germany that we're not growing. Is that true, or is it the problem they don't have a good business model?
So certainly growth fixes a lot of problems. So if we had a healthier growth in Italy, we would do much better in every dimension, including banking. But Germany has been growing relatively well until now. And so I think that the problem is not that there is lack of growth in Germany. The problem is that the business model of Deutsche and Commerzbank is not working. And Deutsche, honestly, is quite of an embarrassment over the last 10 years. And a scandal after another. If you sum up all the fines that they pay in scandals since 2000, amounts more than the value of equity today.
Professor Zingales, you are expert on incentives within capitalism. We spoke to Joachim Fels yesterday at PIMCO, who strongly agrees with you on cross-border combinations of banking in Europe. But one of the key incentives for UniCredit is they've got to have the Italian government behind them. They've got to have the Italian people behind them. Is there an Italian capitalism that can support UniCredit and other Italian banks?
I think that's the problem with Europe, I would say. I think UniCredit should be able to merge without the support of the Italian government or the German government. If we go down that path, we're not going to have a European capital market. This reminds me very much of Italy until a few years ago, where you have to have the permission of Turin to merge a bank between Turin and Milan. We are walking a world where we are competing with China. We cannot be sort of discussing the little details of the corner here.
Okay, but so how many banks would you actually close down? How many retail stops, right? Is it all to do with apps and the new fintech, and that's where you make money, and that should be your business model?
Well, first of all, I will not close down any bank. I will let the market decide. I'm not here to say what is the right amount. I think that certainly fintech is coming and is changing. Whether fintech would be an app without a need for a branch, or you still need some branches, let the market decide. I don't think that we are here to decide. I think in Italy people are fairly conservative. They still need to see a person at the end of the day. They don't trust just an app. So it will take a while before we go completely to apps. But I think that apps are not apps. The important thing is to have a fairly efficient cost-to-income ratio. You look at Scandinavian banks, they have a very low cost-to-income ratio. You look at European banks in general, and Deutsche and Commerzbank in particular, they have a terrible cost-to-income ratio. So I don't think it's just a monetary policy, because in Sweden they had negative interest rates, but they have healthy banks. In Europe they don't, but it's not a question of just a monetary policy.
I've got 8 more questions, and they're telling me in New York I've got time for one. We're celebrating Raghuram Rajan's wonderful new book, The Third Pillars. You've written with Professor Rajan before. He speaks of community. Can we have greater community in America, or is it permanently fractured?
I think that Raghu is pointing out to an important aspect that we economists tend to ignore, which is the social aspect. And I think we have ignored at our own cost and the cost of society. So I think it's very important to emphasize this. Now, what kind of community we'll be able to build in the future, whether this is a local community or a social community in the cyberspace, remains to be seen. And the question that I'm not completely clear in my mind is, what can we do and what should we do to foster this sense of community? Because our economic system indicates that whenever there is a shortage of jobs here, you have to move there. When you move there, you lose many of your connection and community. So are we prepared to really put some sand in the mechanism of capitalism in order to save the communities?